my friends, welcome back to another DG Model Works video. As you can see, we're back on the workbench, and I'm trying to catch up on tons of little projects that I have, and I thought I would dive into this one. What I have here is one of the American Limited 2-bay covered hoppers, the Trinity hoppers. Now I did buy this used, but you can tell, I mean, it's in perfect shape. It's been taken care of. The only issue I have with it, and I will show you in a minute, but it is truck related. So before I show you that, I just say I'm a little disappointed because of the price of these things. I know when they first come out I really wanted some, but I just didn't want to pay the price that they wanted for them. They're a really good looking car and nicely detailed, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And now that I finally picked one up, I don't know if they're all doing it, but when I show you the problem, I mean, it's something that I don't know if it's limited to this one or not, but we'll hopefully fix it. But hang tight, I'll adjust the camera and show you what I'm talking about. Alright, here is the problem. Look how warped the truck's got. I mean, hopefully that's showing up. But it's to the point where the wheel sets almost don't want to stay in. How bad they're warped. I don't know if that's something from heat, but I wouldn't think so. Look, I mean, it could be heat related, but man, just the ends of them warped right out. Both of them. I mean, it's not usable. Not to mention, it looks ridiculous. So for being a nice, expensive, highly detailed model, I wouldn't expect the trucks to do that. And I don't know, if it was stored in heat or something, and there's no other damage. So we will swap them out, hopefully, with, pull them off my shelf here, with a set of these Kadee trucks, and hopefully it's not too much of a pain. So let's get started. Alright, before I put the other Kadee trucks on, I want to take these ones off and see if I can't figure out what the issue is, and maybe we can just fix what we have here. Okay, here's one of the trucks, and looking at this thing a little bit closer, the trucks themselves are not warped, because the axle of the wheels is actually all the way in. There's no way to pinch that closed. So it's actually the wheel sets are actually pushing the side frame of the truck outwards. And I also noticed that these are actually scale wheels. So these may not be the ones that came on this when it was new. These could have been added afterwards. Like I said, I bought this particular car used. So this is going to warrant a little bit further investigation. Now here you can see what I'm talking about as far as scale set of wheels. If you notice, the wheel itself is a scale size width compared to this is a Proto 2000 wheel set beside it, and you can see the difference. Now that in itself should not cause any problems, but I know some manufacturers have that when you buy the model, and some people add them after the fact. So like I said, these might not be the factory wheel sets. So let's check it a little bit further. And here you can see after I remove one of the wheel sets, I can actually push the side frame back in to where it belongs, and as you can see in this picture, the one wheel set is clearly pushing the side frames out. So I'm going to get out my calipers and see if I can't figure out what's going on. Alright, now I have my digital caliper. I'm going to check the axle length on the wheel set that I removed and compare it to one of the Proto 2000 wheel sets that I have a bunch of packs of here to replace plastic wheel sets. That's saying 1.02 inches. And let's see what the Proto 2000 is. 1.01. So there's not much of a difference. It's a 0.01, which would be 10,000ths of an inch difference. Not much at all. And before we go any further, I will double check to make sure both these wheel sets I just checked, the Proto 2000 and the one that came off this train car, are in gauge. And yes, they are both in gauge. So just to rule things out. Now one more thing I want to check. I want to check the inside length or width of the trucks, and I'm going to compare it to a truck that I just pulled off of a old Bachmann car actually, and I just want to see if we got anything going on there. And we'll check this. 0.82 of an inch. I believe that would be 820 thousandths of an inch. 0.82, and let's compare it to the Bachmann one. Bachmann one is 0.86. So it appears that maybe the problem with these trucks on the American Limited hopper car, I believe the trucks are a little bit too narrow in between the wheel sets, and the wheel set that's on it is just, I mean, ever so slightly longer. I don't really consider that the problem. I think there's a problem with these trucks. They're not actually warped. They're not, you know, anything heat related. The wheel sets are just actually pushing the sides out. If I take the wheel sets out, I can kind of bend them right back to where they're supposed to be. So I got one more thing I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can do away with these scale wheel sets. Use a truck tuner to clean up the inside of the holes a little bit for the axles, and maybe we can make these work yet. Alright, what I have here is a truck tuner for Micromark, and I'm going to see if I can't just open up the trucks a little bit and run that back and forth while squeezing in a little bit on the sides of the truck. Now we flip this tuner tool to the other side, because only one side does the cutting, and we'll keep trying. Okay, I put one of the Proto 2000 wheel sets in, and it is still pushing the side frame out a little bit. I don't know if I can really make it any better. I honestly just think these trucks aren't designed right. They're not as wide as they need to be for any wheel set to work. Okay, this is actually my first set of Kadee trucks I've ever purchased, and I'm going to attempt it with this project. I think it's pretty cool how they're spring loaded, little springs on the side. They're real and they actually work. You can feel it. That's pretty cool. One thing I don't like they don't fit on any type of shaft like traditional style trucks do. At least this set doesn't. So that means I have to trim that completely off, and then it gets screwed on, which means there's no going back. Once I do that, if these don't work, then I'm not putting the other set of trucks back on at all. Not that I would want to, but pretty much traditional trucks use some sort of shaft there for the truck to slide on. So I'm going to have to think long and hard about this if I really want to do this. Alright guys, I think this is going to work. I did one off camera just to make sure, and then I'll walk you through the process of what I did doing the other one. Well, I basically just took a leap of faith, and I grabbed my sprue cutters, and I just cut off as much of that as possible. I hate to... It makes you cringe, let me tell you. No going back. And then I have a little file here. Just came in a set from Harbor Freight, and basically I want to file that down flat. Now if you see these little nubs here, there are little nubs there on either side of the hole. That's only on this side, and I believe American Limited did that. That way this truck couldn't rock from side to side, and that would basically help prevent you getting your death wobble as you're going down the track, if you've ever had that. It wasn't on the other side, it was only on this side. But I noticed when I put this truck on, there's not much play side to side on that. I don't think these are really needed now for me, but they are up a little bit higher than being flush with this piece right here. So I will probably end up having to sand some of them off, or file some of that off, and that's okay, because we got to get down to make sure everything is flush. So that's this step. Alright, now that that's sanded flush, what I'm using next is tap and drill set for 256 size screw, because I am replacing the screws, the factory screws, with these. This is what the Kadee recommends for these trucks, the 256, and it's actually a tighter fit in the hole for the trucks. So since I don't have the only thing centering it's the screw now, keeping it centered. So that there's no play there, and there's just enough to allow it to rotate, and that'll keep it centered. So I'm just trying to do that. So basically I'm using the tap and drill set, and with my pin vise, and I open the hole up a little bit because these screws are a little bit thicker, like I said, or bigger diameter than the ones that were in it. So we'll open up the hole a little bit. Now I have the tap, and unfortunately it won't fit in my pin vise. So with this just being just plastic, I'm able to turn it by hand, and we'll cut some threads in there for our screw. Now all we need to do is drop one of these T56 screws. These are 1/4 inch long ones. They make them at different lengths. I just kind of guessed and went with 1/4 inch. And go ahead and screw it on. And I didn't tap all the way in, so the screw actually will dig some of its own threads and hold snug. Because if you tap all the way, the only way the screw stays tight is if you actually tighten it down, and you don't want it tightened down for your trucks. You want them to be able to turn and spin, I mean. So don't tap your hole all the way. Allow the screw to cut its own threads somewhat. And then that's it. Kadee trucks. We'll check it now with the NMRA track height gauge or coupler height gauge. Alright, I have my coupler height sitting there on the test track. Bring these in. Well, I suppose I could live with that. Let's check the other side. Looks good to me. These Kadee trucks are pretty nice. They're all metal. And actual spring loaded. Pretty realistic. And so far, seem to be just fine. I'd say this is a completed project. What do you say?